My name is Breeley Moore, and within this presentation, I'm going to discuss my ideal 21st century learning environment. Space, whether physical or virtual, can have a significant impact on learning. With the emergence of ICT use in the classroom, one must think about the contested learning space and a way in which the physical and virtual space can be altered or introduced to create a supportive learning environment for all students. Within this presentation, I will discuss my own ideal 21st century learning environment, specifically in relation to my own KLA, English, that I believe would be effective. At times, the ideal classroom can feel quite removed from the actual classroom, in terms of 4 walls, rows of desks, with a teacher and whiteboard at the front. However, it is exciting to think that our generation of teachers could be the generation to embrace the ideal classroom. My 21st century learning environment would be fluid. What I mean by this is that the physical and/or virtual learning space can be readily reshaped and altered. When considering the creation of my 21st century learning environment, in terms of the physical, I'm going to stick with the traditional classroom. However, my classroom will have an outdoor area attached and contain within it a quiet zone or mini library. Within the classroom, there will be 25 tables and chairs on wheels. The colour choice of these is crucial, as British children, when asked, stated that vibrant colours would be essential in their ideal learning space. Other suggestions included natural light, nature, contemporary designs, the introduction and use of technology, as well as the environment being a healthy and safe place to learn. All of these suggestions made by students are very valuable and would most definitely have a place in my 21st century learning environment. Getting back to the tables, as mentioned before, they will be on wheels, so there will constantly be an opportunity for the classroom to change. A U-shape could be useful for teacher-directed or individual work. Grouping of desks could be useful for group work, and pairing of desks could be useful for working in pairs. Within the quiet zone or mini library I mentioned, I would have bookshelves, beanbags, cushions, and couches where students will be allowed to read quietly or to work in groups. Within the outdoor area attached to my room, I would have benches for students to sit and complete work on, as well as gardens and possibly water features. I would like to also have 2 whiteboards in the classroom, one on the side of the room and one at the front. When considering a 21st century learning environment, perhaps the most important thing to consider is the introduction and effective use of ICTs, in particular portable ICTs. Within my ideal classroom, I would have 5 desktop computers along one side of the room, hooked up to a printer. The desktops will be useful to students when typing up work as well as researching, as there is an opportunity for multiple windows to be viewed clearly at one time, simply due to the size of the screen. I would also have 10 laptops available to students, specifically for individual work or working in pairs. Laptops will be great in that they are portable and therefore can be used anywhere within the classroom, the mini library, or the outdoor area. Within my 21st century learning environment, I would also have 10 iPads with accompanying keyboards. iPads will be a key portable ICT within the connected classroom, as they will aid specifically in the visual presentation, representation, and organization of information and ideas which is necessary in English. 25 sets of headphones will also be important so students are able to completely engage in their work if sound is required, without disturbing other class members. All students will have an online storage account in which to store their documents, for example Dropbox or the equivalent, so the saving of documents is not an issue. In terms of my own ICT as the teacher, I would have a desktop hooked up to an interactive whiteboard. The interactive whiteboard will be useful for the visual display of notes and/or class tasks, to work on interactively as a class or in smaller groups, for use as a DVD player, for direct internet access, as well as being used to Skype other classrooms and/or educators. Digital message boards will also be used within the classroom to display general information to the class from around the school or specifically from the English department. Virtual worlds are another exciting tool that could be introduced and used within my 21st century learning environment. Second Life could be used specifically in English in terms of assisting students to gain an adequate understanding of the context of their texts. An example could be taking a tour of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre in Second Life. Ways in which these technologies will be blended into students' learning experiences will be through guided learning practices, as well as self-directed learning. One piece of important information given to me was to choose the program or ICT you would like to use and design your lesson or lessons around that program. This is opposed to creating the activities and then incorporating ICT into them. This pedagogical approach to ICT is essential. In conclusion, when creating a 21st century learning environment, many parties should be consulted. However, the most important people to consider are the students, their needs, their wants for their learning space.